This past week, new figures from the CDC found more Americans took their lives last year than in any year on record. If you do the math, it works out to some 132 suicides every day. Susan Spencer explains how stopping the shame surrounding suicide might be a way to prevent some of those deaths.
Gardening at home in Kansas City, Missouri, Clancy Martin hardly looks like someone who has struggled for years with grim thoughts of suicide.
It was just all day, every day, wanting to die, wanting to take my own life.
It started young, very young. At 6, he ran in front of a bus, the first of 10 suicide attempts over the years.
One time I pushed myself off a building and a friend who almost went over with me grabbed me from behind who I didn't even know was there. It's a miracle that I'm alive, and I'm so grateful for that miracle.
Suicidal thoughts at 6 may be rare, but now 56, Martin fits one of the demographics most likely to die by suicide: white males, middle-aged and older. But in America today, every demographic is at risk.
Suicidal ideation is actually so common in the general population, about 1 in 5 high school students.
Psychiatrist Christine Moutier, who heads up the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, says this is a public health crisis, pure and simple.
In the United States, in the last year, it's something like 13 million Americans, and those are just the adults, have been having serious thoughts of suicide at some point.
Americans are dying by suicide at record rates. In 2021, nearly 50,000 people in this country have died by suicide.
Nearly 50,000 people?
Yes.
Tia Dole, a psychologist at Vibrant Emotional Health in New York City, puts part of the blame on an epidemic of loneliness.
People in this country are really struggling with isolation, with sadness, with anxiety, and suicide is an option for them.
On average, a staggering 132 Americans kill themselves every single day.
One suicide death is too many, so 130-something a day is actually an enormous and tragic loss of life, many times prematurely, many times preventable.
And prevention, she says, must start by getting rid of the stigma around the subject.
We know from research that young people and adults, some percentage of them, like half, do not tell anyone about their experience until they have a suicide attempt. That is because stigma is clouding the picture to say that I should feel ashamed. I can't out myself as having these very human experiences of mental health suffering and suicidal thoughts.
So that compounds the likelihood that they'll go through with it.
Right, it keeps them from being able to take the step to open up, to talk about what they're experiencing, and then to get the help that they need.
Even now, even when we talk about every single subject and there's nothing off limits, suicide is off limits.
Author Carla Fine has been writing and speaking about suicide for more than 2 decades.
This is when we were just married.
Her journey began with her own devastating experience.
And that's probably the last picture we have together.
Her husband killed himself at 43.
I was angry and I was confused and I was horrified and I was in disbelief and I was numb. I was every single thing looking at this.
Dr. Harry Rice, Carla's husband, a board-certified urologist and an assistant professor at NYU Medical School, was at the peak of his career when he died. How did the stigma surrounding the subject affect you at the time?
My first reaction was not to tell the truth.
What do you mean?
I told people that Harry died of a heart attack.
Why?
I thought at that point that I was protecting him. I didn't want people to think he was crazy. He was such a great doctor. I didn't want people to think, what's wrong with Harry, you know? And then I thought, wait a minute, I think I'm protecting myself.
When people die by suicide, I do think that folks make a character judgment about the person who died. that means there's something wrong with them.
Or they failed somehow.
They failed, or they're a bad person.
Psychologist Dole heads the newly revamped 988 National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline,
Good morning, 988. How can I help you?
a $232 million federally funded project. Last year, its trained counselors answered 5 million calls.
Muchas gracias por decirme esa información.
You have a suicidal young person. They talk to one accepting adult, and it reduces their risk of suicide by 40%.
You're telling me that 15 to 20 minutes on the phone can literally save someone's life?
Yes, yes. We talk people figuratively and literally off of bridges. Some people will call us when they're standing on a bridge, and we'll talk them down. Sometimes we send emergency services to their location.
Well, what could be more gratifying than feeling like you'd saved someone's life?
Oh, no, people save their own lives. They are given tools by the counselors, and they make the decision to save themselves.
It's been more than 5 years since Clancy Martin's last suicide attempt.
Part of Buddhist philosophy is
He's a professor at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and he credits the act of writing a book about his experiences with saving his life.
My thinking about it, miraculously, I'm so grateful, has changed. It's no longer part of my deep belief structure in the way that it was.
Not only did he defy the stigma, Martin connected with others, struggling just as he was. Dr. Moutier.
When you live with something that you thought was your own, maybe unique and private despair, and you finally are brave enough to come out with it, only to find that, guess what? A large percentage of the people around you relate to it. That's a powerful experience.
Do you allow yourself to believe that you'll never try again?
You know, I want to knock on wood as I say this, but I don't think I am ever going to make I don't want to say it out loud, but yes, I allow myself to believe that I am never going to try again.